going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Trick 10s. I'm going to make this introduction short and simple. I've got a lot to do and I'm running out of time. I landed 2 huge collaborations that I'm going to be doing in the near future. One of them really close after this build, so I'm going to tell you guys about that in a little bit, but they're on the level with the Rob Turklow Lunkers TV build, so I'm pretty hyped about that. Now, I do have a couple other builds locally after this one that I got to get done too, so I'm just really booked up with a lot of work and a lot of cool collabs, so I got to get back to work. Now, you see here, I built this pan. This is going to go down inside of this compartment right here. It's going to hold some of these tackle boxes. He's got like 4 or 5 of these and some Plano storage boxes, so we got to put that in there. And I don't want to just drop them in here. They're going to be flopping all around. So I built this today. I brought this home. This is going to be the big pan that goes in here, and then this little pan is sitting inside of that one. That one is going to go in the transom area. That's for his gas tank. Now, I could just set his gas tank in the back of the boat and the floor, and it'd be fine. But that's not how I do things. Everything has to have a place, and that's going to keep that gas tank from moving around and making noise. Would you expect me to do anything less, really? I mean, it's got to be perfect. So I did get a shit ton of stickers today. I mean, those are pretty cool, too. My homeboy hooked me up with those. I think there's about like 45 of them on there. So I got a bunch of decals. If you guys are looking for some decals, holler at me. I'll hook you guys up with some decals. And the clothing is on the way. I paid for that, paid for the hats. So I got about 40 sweatshirts that are on the way. They're hoodies. They're just like this one. They're black with the white logos on the front. I'll be giving you guys a bunch more information about those probably in the next couple of videos once I figure out a price, what I can sell them for, and how I'm going to sell them. Same thing with the hats. I'm basically going to pick up right where we left off. I'm going to start putting this stuff in here and get this front compartment figured out. And then I'm going to finish running up the rest of these electrical wires, get that gas tank in there, the Bilge pump, the LEDs on the sides and stuff, because this thing's getting wrapped in like a week. So I got a lot to do in a little bit of time, but you know me. That's how I work best. Let's get back to work. All right, so you guys can see what I did here. I went ahead and cut 2 pieces of this foam and shoved them up underneath it here. This is basically just gonna be extra flotation. It's gonna help with the sound dampening for this pan that I'm gonna put in here. Now I cut this pan and I bent it up. It's gonna fit in here. It fits perfectly actually. And what this is gonna do is gonna hold these little tackle boxes right here. And it's gonna give us some other storage over here. So I'm gonna take this thing and I went ahead and marked some spots here and here, right there. And what those are gonna do, they're gonna mount into these verticals. There's one here and there's one right over there. It's taped up, but I know where they're at. There's just a piece of 1x1 1/8" aluminum square tube. So I'm gonna shoot some rivets up through these into those. Then I'm gonna come back and shoot some rivets through the side of that rod locker to hold this pan up. And then on this back side, I'm gonna try to put a little tack right here. And that's probably gonna be all he needs to hold this in here. It's not like somebody's gonna be standing inside of here. Just gonna be holding tackle and stuff. This tray will easily be able to hold, 60, 70 pounds, probably even more than that. It's gonna be fine. Once I get this pan installed inside of here, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna drill some holes through here. I'm gonna put some grommets in here. So I'm gonna mount his black box right there. That way it's easily accessible in case he has an issue or problem with it. It won't be too bad to get it out. And the way this pan sits, this lip sticks up right here. I did that on purpose because that leaves us about a 2.5-inch gap right here. And that's gonna be perfect for his black box to fit up there. And all the wires coming off it will run right through grommets up inside of this front deck. They'll all be hidden. It'll look real clean inside of there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this piece installed and we'll get on to something else. Let's get back to work. All right, so I was gonna install this piece, but I decided that I might as well go ahead and put a coat of black paint on it because it's gonna be in there permanently and it's gonna make a whole lot more sense to paint it now. So I pre-drilled my holes in here and I got this thing ready to go. It fits pretty good, so I put a coat of black paint on it. I'm gonna let this thing sit up here in front of the heater and dry for a little bit. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna try to finish up this live well. I got the overflow pieces that came in the mail yesterday, actually. These are the ones I'm gonna use right here. Now, these are 1.5 inches. And this is an 1.5 inch hose that I got right here. So this thing's gonna work out perfectly. The only kicker with this is that I have his pan that's gonna drop in here, and I already built the pan. The pan's 1.5 inches deep, and that's how deep I'd like to have it, but I might end up having to shorten that pan because these things are pretty beefy, and I really need to keep this as high up in this live well as possible because the lower it gets, the lower his water level gets. So in order to keep this all the way up to the top where his water level could be as high as possible, I might end up having to cut his pan down and make it a little bit shorter because it's going to hit it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one installed, and then I'm going to get the one on the outside, the through hole fitting installed. Then I'm going to run the hose across here, and if I got to alter that pan, I'll just alter it because that pan is basically just a small day box. I mean, the whole reason for it is to get in here and access this stuff. Worst case scenario, I'll do away with the entire pan, but I'm sure I can just shorten it if I have to. I'm going to get these in there, and let's see what happens. Let's get back to work. All right, so let's see what we got here. We got our overflow drain installed. I mean, this thing is sucked tight up there in the corner. That's about as close as I could get it. I'm happy with how it turned out. That's going to allow him to fill this thing up to a maximum level. I mean, the live well on the interior is pretty much finished up, and I think it looks great. Now on the back side, I've got the back of this drain for the overflow hooked up, and it runs right through the side of the hole. It's an overflow, so any of the water that builds up, it will just gravity feed right out the side right here. Now this is going to allow him to run this pump or both of these pumps all day long if he wants to. He can run this pump, and it'll continuously bring fresh water into this tank. If the water level gets too high, it'll just drain right out of here and right out the side of the hole. Now I am going to order some thicker hose clamps because these are 1/2 inch, and these are usually fine for all these smaller fittings, but this is a big fitting. I mean, this thing has a throat on it where the barbs are. It's like 2 inches. You can see it better down here, but I'd like to have something bigger on here to suck this thing down tighter. So I'm going to order some more stainless steel hose clamps that are wider. They sell them, you know, in all different sizes. I'm going to get some that are at least like 1 inch wide. I just feel a lot better because once this thing is done, it's done, man. There's no bringing it back. There's no redoing it. It's got to be right the first time because I have so much other stuff lined up. I don't have time to look back at this boat at a later date. So I'm going to get some bigger hose clamps to put on here. Probably do that the next couple of days. But the one thing I wanted to finish tonight, which I couldn't, is this one. I wanted to get this thing finished up with the pump out, but the fitting that I ordered for this, I had to order it from TH Marine because it's like a low profile one. I'm trying to keep this thing as tight as possible up inside of this hole right here because this drop-in pan is going to be in here, and I can't have this thing sticking out inside of this hatch because it's going to interfere with this pan. But the one I ordered, it hasn't gotten here yet. It was supposed to be here today, but now they're telling me tracking says it's going to be here tomorrow. And I'm trying to get a sponsorship or some type of partnership or something with TH Marine because those dudes sell everything under the sun when it comes to boats, and I would love to partner up with somebody like that. I'm already ordering a bunch of their parts. I'm not asking for an affiliate program. I just want to be able to buy my stuff at bulk at a good price and stock up. So if any of y'all know anybody that's affiliated with them, please send them my way because I could give them a lot of business and I can sell a lot of stuff for them. Anyways, I got to wait on that. So this thing is about as far as I can get it tonight. Now I'm going to change gears. I'm going to try to put this pan in here. This pan's been sitting over here for about 45 minutes. I think it's pretty dry. It looks like it's pretty dry. So I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to stage it up, and I'm going to see if I can get this thing installed. We'll move on to something else. Let's get back to work. All right, so this pan has been sitting up here for like an hour. It's not quite dry yet. You can see how it's all shiny in that corner right there. It's going to take a few more minutes for this thing to dry. It's cold out here, man. It's in the 30s. It's supposed to be like 60 degrees in a couple of days, but that's that VA weather for you. So I'm going to let this pan sit up here. It needs a little bit longer to dry. I want this thing to be perfect before I install it because I don't want to mess this paint up. I want to make sure this thing is going to be right. So I'm going to change gears. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hop into this back transom storage area right here. Now, this area is just basically going to hold his gas tank. I already built this pan. You can see the gas tank sitting in the pan. I'm going to mount this thing. I'm probably going to mount it on this side over here. This is where he should have his main drain, and this thing's probably going to be attached from the outside of the boat, but I still want to leave it open where he can attach it from the inside if he wants to. So I'm going to install that pan right over here, and I want this thing to be permanent. It's going to be sitting in here. I don't want the gas tank moving around, so I'm going to weld this to the bottom of the boat. I should have done this before Billy painted all this, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm just going to grind a couple of little spots right where this pan is going to sit. I'm going to tack this thing down to the floor, and then I'll come back and touch up this thing, and it'll be perfect. And then on this side of it, I'm going to make a little bracket. It's basically like an L piece. It's just going to attach here into the side of this main support that's holding the transom, and it's going to come down and bend over. It's going to have a pump on here for his bilge pump. He needs to have a bilge pump in here. So I'm going to put that on this side because this drains on that side, and the gas tank's going to be here. And then the rest of this is just going to be like an open storage. So he can put a cooler in here, or his backseat boater can have storage, but he's still going to have tons of storage up in here too. So it's going to be sick. I'm going to go ahead and get this installed, and we'll get on to something else. Let's get back to work.
Start it up.
All right, so I got his pan installed for the gas tank. You see this thing is gonna sit right here. It'll be perfect. That'll keep it in place so it's not moving around. Now I gotta figure out this bilge pump. See how this bilge pump works? It's pretty simple. It's got this little red button on the side. You push that in, you can spin it, and this whole top part comes out. The blue part, that's the cartridge. And then it's got this button down here. You push this in, and you can spin the whole housing and take the whole housing out and replace that if you have to. It has these holes in the bottom right here of this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build a plate that I can shoot some rivets through here and into that plate. I'm gonna mount this thing up inside of this corner right here. Now, the way these well builds are set up, this back part right here drops back about 2 inches from this transom right here. And this piece is the main support, but it has a bend here and one to the floor as well to the floor. I really want this thing to sit tight as far back as I can get it. And I want it to be as close to this piece right here for the support. That way it will keep it protected. I don't want this thing to get hit and messed up. So I'm gonna make a custom bracket for this. I'm going to have it come down here on the side, and it's gonna come up underneath of it. Now I've got to cut that out because, as you can see, it's got this piece in the way, and this is actually tapered up just a little bit right here. It's not perfectly flat. The piece that I make is gonna come down here, it's gonna bend out at like a 45, and then it's gonna come across and bend again to here. It should be flat, but it's gonna be tapered so it can sit way back in here. So it's really gonna attach here, but the piece is gonna come down, go back that way. I'm gonna draw this piece out onto this piece of metal I got right here. I don't know what boat this came out of. I have so many little pieces and scraps, but I save all these pieces for the simple reason of stuff like this. I'm gonna lay this piece out, I'm gonna cut it, and then I'm gonna bend it. I'm actually going to bring home my handbrake tomorrow. We'll put it right there where that desk is at, and I'm gonna bend this in my new handbrake. I need to get that thing home, and I wanna use it, but I am gonna go ahead and lay it out now, and I'll get it ready so I can just cut it and install it tomorrow. It's gonna be sick. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so in the last clip, you just saw my little finger brake. Now, this thing is so sick. These have Allen keys in them. You can loosen these up, and you can remove any of these pieces or put them together if you need to bend something wider. It's basically made for bending pans. That way, if you had a side here and a side here, you put it in there and you can bend it up, and those sides will fall right in between these gaps in here. It's definitely a sweet tool to have, and my dad bought this for me. The guy that we know was going out of business. I think we got this thing for 300 bucks. Great deal, and he wouldn't take any money back from me. So this is a present from the Pops. So this is the piece that I laid off last night. Went ahead, cut it out the day before I left the shop. Now I am going to bend it in here. I'm gonna show you how this works. It's stupid simple. It's got a lever on the side. Pull that up. That opens this up. You can put your piece in there. Start with this one. Pull the handle. This one's going to be kicked up, probably something like that. Hit our second bend. All right, pretty simple. Now let's see if she fits. Like a glove. This piece will fit right in here. And when I was come back and put a couple of screws in here, or rivets, to hold it in place after I paint it. That way this thing will be mounted in there and secure. You ain't got to worry about it. It's that simple. Let's get back to work. right, so I went ahead and made this little bracket and got it painted up, drilled all my holes in there. This thing's ready to go. I'm gonna let it sit up here and bake for a little bit. The joys of working during the winter is I gotta run this thing so this stuff like this will dry. During the summer, it's a lot easier, but the thing that sucks about the summer is that it's hotter than hell, and I've got to run fans, and I gotta turn the fans off for vocals, and I get to sweat while I'm talking to you guys. While that thing's drying, we're gonna go ahead and install this pan. This is the pan that we made. I painted it, got it ready to go. I'm gonna drop it right up in here in this front area and try to get this installed. And what I'm probably gonna do is build some type of custom brackets, like little C channels, and then attach them into the floor right here. That way, when he puts these boxes in there, they'll stay standing up and they won't shift around. It's gonna be pretty simple, and the best thing about those is if he decides to go with a different box later on, he can just screw those rivets out and pull those right out, and he'll have this whole pan open up for whatever he decides to put in here. And I can always make him some custom brackets to hold different Plano boxes or whatever he wants in here if he changes things up. Let's get this thing in the boat. Let's get back to work. All right, so I got the pan installed, pretty simple. I shot a rivet up here through this vertical 1x1, same thing over there. A couple rivets into the rod locker to support it on that side. Now those rivets only stick through into that rod locker about 1/8 of an inch. It's very small, the turf will cover that right up. On this side, I was planning on welding it originally, but with that new handbrake, it's exactly why I wanted to have that thing here. I just picked this piece up off the floor over there. I literally didn't even have to cut it. I just bent it to a 2x2 angle. It's a little bit over 90. It's tight because this piece in here in this corner, it raises up right here. So it needed to be a little bit tighter. Perfect piece. Took me about 5 minutes. A couple rivets here, a couple rivets there. This thing is money. It's strong. You could stand in here if you had to, but this thing's gonna hold tackle. It's gonna be perfect for that. I'm gonna get this black box installed up in here in just a minute. But right now, I'm gonna install that bilge pump right there in the back of the boat. I'm gonna put it on the bracket, install that. I'm gonna run the hose up through the side with a through hole fitting. I'm gonna run the electrical back around over here where the switch panel is gonna be. Let's get back to work. Bilge pump, check. The bracket worked out perfectly. You can see it's tight. It's sucking it down. I bent these two brakes a little bit light. That way when I installed these rivets in here, it would keep tension down on this thing because you want this bilge pump to sit as low as possible in the boat because this is what's going to get water out of your boat in case of an accident. I mean, this boat is not going to leak, but if something happens in a crazy accident, then we want to make sure this thing is going to work and get all this stuff out of here as fast as possible. It's very simple though. Got it all hooked up, mounted. It can be removed easily if need be. This hose runs right up and under this quarter panel, pumps right out the back side of the boat right here. Then I ran the power for it. Obviously, I still got to tuck all this in, put some zip ties up here and some connectors to hold this wire up out the way. And it runs up here and out through the side of the electrical panel. All right, so now that I got the bilge pump hooked up, I'm gonna move on to something a whole lot cooler. This is one of my favorite parts of the builds. I'm going to install the interior and the exterior LED strips. Now this kind of became my trademark. It was like my calling card. All the boats that I built, they had these interior lights that ran the entire rail, interior and exterior. And it's just something I like doing because I think it looks cool. Now I have two different colors. You can see I got some packages here. We got a black light and we have a green. So I'm gonna put the green strip on the interior rail just because everything inside of the boat's already gonna be purple. We got the purple marble turf going in here. You got the purple sidewalls. So I just think the green would look sick on the inside. It's gonna set it off. And on the exterior, we're gonna put the black light. And the black light is gonna shine into the water. It might attract fish. Who cares? It's gonna look bad as shit. We're gonna get this stuff installed. Let's get back to work. right, so I got these strip lights installed on the port side exterior. Now I want to install the port side interior lights. Those are the black lights on the outside. The inside ones are going to be the green lights. I'm going to run them right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole right here in this quarter panel. I'm going to put a grommet in there, and I'm going to run this wire right from there to here and run this completely up underneath this interior rail right here. I'm going to try to make this as tight and close as possible. That way it's inconspicuous, and I can suck this wire real tight right here because I don't want anybody to mess with this, and I want this thing just to look like it's not even there. Let's go ahead and put you guys back on the time lapse. Let's get back to work. So I got both the LEDs installed onto the port side of the boat. I'm going to install the same exact set, green on the interior, purple on the outside, onto the starboard side in just a second. I did just get the mail, and finally my part came in for this live well. I want to finish up this live well. I want to get this thing done now. It's nice outside, it's warm, it's like 65 degrees, and I want this 5200 to have time to dry up a little bit. Finish this thing up and I'll be completely done with the live well. I'm going to show you these two fittings and the difference in them and why I had to wait for this one to get here. All right, so it's pretty self-explanatory as to why I needed this piece. It's much more low profile. You can see how short it is compared to this one. It's about an inch. So the difference in this is all I need to make this piece work. Now, as far as these two pieces in quality, I think they're about the same. This one over here, I got a whole lot cheaper. I ordered 50 of those. This one right here, I ordered from TH Marine. I'm hoping to get some more of these too, because they definitely come in handy. These have a deeper throat on it right here, and that allows it to go through thicker material, obviously, different hole thicknesses and stuff like that. This one is actually big enough that you could sink it right out to the top of your transom if you wanted to do that. This one is perfect for tight corners. Both these pieces do the same exact thing. They're just made for different applications. I'm gonna go ahead and get this one in the boat. This is what we gotta have for this build. I'm gonna get this live well finished up, and then we'll get these LED lights installed on the starboard side. Let's get back to work. So this last through hole fitting finishes off our live well. As you can see, we got the hose hooked up to the outside of the flow right. It loops right around and into this through hole fitting right here. Very simple, very effective. Take a screenshot of this right here if you're going to be doing a live well. Might help you out. Now that the live well is finished up, I'm going to go get the other exterior LEDs put onto the starboard side. Let's get back to work. All right, so now we got our hole for our exterior LEDs on the starboard side. Before I install those, I need to tighten up all these wires and make this permanent so I can figure out exactly how much slack I need to leave. I'm going to leave about 6 inches of slack tucked up in this corner over here. That way, if you need to replace those LEDs, you'll have some slack. So what I'm going to do with all these wires in here, I'm going to put some zip ties up here, and I'm going to put these through there, and I can come back and pull these tight later. I don't think I'm going to need any more wires running from this side over. Everything else is going to be inside of this back bench seat right here. This is what I'm going to use right here. I'm going to take this rivet and rivet this in to this angle right down here. Now the hatch drops in here, so it's going to create a void. Basically from here back, it's going to be wide open, and that's where that wire is going to sit. right up inside of there. These things are awesome. It's very simple to use. I'll just hook it around, loop it back into itself like that, and then I'll leave it loose. It'll sit about like that. And then when I'm finally finished, this will be one of the last things I do. I'll come back and I'll pull all these tight and suck all those wires in there nice and tight. Now, if you need to add new wires later on, you can always just zip tie them to these existing wires, but this will be in there as an anchor to attach any wires to. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, so I got these black lights installed on both sides of the exterior of the hull. These things are sick. I mean, they're not quite as bright as I would hope they were going to be, but they are true black lights, which is pretty sick. And you can see right here, I got a white rag. It definitely is a black light, and it's going to look cool, especially at night out on the water. It's going to be super bright. There's no lights out on the water. But the side of this hull right here is only about 12.5 feet. These strip lights are 16.5 feet. So I had 4 feet left over. I didn't really know what to do with them. So I went ahead and put them inside of this rear transom area. I put another one right here on the interior of this back bench seat. This thing is going to light this up. Obviously, I still have other LED black lights that are inside here that aren't on right now, but I just thought it was sick. I mean, look how cool that green cable is inside of there. I mean, that thing is shining. It's going to be sick, man. I'm getting hyped about this build. I'm going to go ahead and cut the lights back on, put you guys back on the time lapse. I'm going to install the green lights in the interior of this starboard rail. Let's get back to work. Alright guys, so I got all the LEDs installed in this build, and man, it looks so cool. I love these LEDs. This is my favorite part of the build. Honestly, putting these LED strip lights in the interior and exterior completely down the rail kind of became my trademark. It was like my calling card. After I did Neptune, then I did Mary Jane, and then the Punisher, and then G.I. Joe, and then the Tracker build. So it's only right that I keep the tradition going. I mean, people look at this and they're like, hey, that looks like a Trick 10's boat. That's because the LED lights run the entire rail. They don't stop. A lot of people use like the 2-foot ones, and they have one in the back, one in the front. That's not how I do things. I think it looks way better if they run the entire length of the boat. Now this thing is sick. What makes it so fun to me doing these builds is that it's like a puzzle. Some people put jigsaw puzzles together. I put boats together. The best part is I make each piece as I go. So it's completely customized. Every piece that I put into this boat, I thought it out, I designed it, I made it, and I installed it. And that's what it's all about to me. I enjoy that whole process. Now this boat is gonna be one of a kind. It's going to be insane. It's gonna be so dope when it's done. You guys are not gonna believe how cool this thing's gonna look out on the water, especially at night when it's lit up. This boat's about to get wrapped in 1 week. I gotta get all this turf in here. I gotta finish up all the electronics. I gotta do the graph bridge, the grass. I gotta do the outboard motor. I gotta build a jack plate. I got a lot to do, but this is one of those things that just takes time. All this electrical in here, it has to be perfect. Everything is done with heat shrink connectors. It's wrapped with black tape. It's covered with wire loom. It's going to last. The stuff I put in here is stuff that he's not gonna have to come back and deal with anytime soon. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like, subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about what I'm doing. I appreciate any and every comment, every person that watches my videos. Help me grow the channel, guys. I got some big collabs coming up and I'm hyped about all this. I'll see you guys next time. I gotta get back to work.